Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Only One Hotspur podcast. Obviously, we've been away for a while. I'm sure you've all missed us because obviously we're awesome. Uh, but, we've missed doing it. Obviously, we've had quite a lot going on, going back to work and all that malarkey. But today, we're back with a keep or sell episode. So this one should be quite fun. It'll bring out the opinions as well, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure there'll be quite a few tasty debates. And I think the true colours will come out, I believe. But yeah, I think we'll obviously get straight in with it with the goalkeepers. Yeah, let's just start off with our number one, obviously the captain, Hugo Lloris, who I know, Wes, you've got a few very strong opinions on, actually, don't you, to be fair?
First of all, great to be back. It's certainly been a while. It feels like it's been longer than it actually has as well. But like I say, great to be back. In terms of Hugo, if you'd have probably asked me this about maybe 6 months ago, we're probably still in lockdown, but sort of pre-COVID, if you like, I think my opinion might have been a bit different. But then since the restart, I think he's had a massive upturn in form. I do think, however, that we probably have we could do with a bit of a change. I think he's given us great service. He is 33. I know we've just brought in Joe Hart, who is literally the same age. But yeah, for me, I just think Hugo's performances by and large over the last sort of couple of years, like I say, before COVID, and then like I say, a couple of years before that, they weren't the greatest. The mistakes started happening and creeping into his game. His distribution was poor, especially for the way that the team wanted to play at that particular time. But then, I think since COVID and the restart, we've changed the way that we played massively. We don't play out from the back as much anymore, if at all. So I think that's probably helped Lloris a little bit in terms of his distribution. And then actually as well, Joe, I don't know if you've noticed, but over the years, since we first bought Hugo under AVB, it was, that sweeper keeper, we played a high line and, like I say, sweeper keeper for Lloris, but then he just seems to be going back and back and back a lot more and not being as proactive as a goalkeeper. He's not having that high starting position. So I don't know if that's potentially cost us a couple of times. And if I think to City at Wembley when they beat us 3-1, I think he was at fault for all three, because I think that starting position I'm talking about there for the first goal, long ball over the top from Kompany, you would think that Lloris would come out. But he chose to stay at home, and it made it a bit easier for, I think it was Jesus that scored. And, the second one comes flying out when he doesn't need to, and takes out Raheem Sterling. And then the third one, he puts it on a plate, I think, for Raheem Sterling to finish. There has been times where he has tried to be sweeper keeper. I think Barcelona in the Champions League as well. He's come flying out after 2 minutes and, we're 1-0 down and you just think, yeah, cheers. But, it's one of those, I think, Hugo's given us fantastic service over his time. But, I think for me, perhaps I'd probably say give Hugo one more year and then probably look to replace, in my opinion. Don't know about you on Hugo.
That's the thing, it's a hard one to talk about because I think, as you know, I absolutely love the guy. I love his name as well. So very random that, I know. But what a cool name Hugo is. But yeah, I think, look, he is a class goalkeeper. I think he has had a mistake in him. Don't get me wrong, but I think if you look at some of the other goalkeepers at the minute, I think De Gea has been making more mistakes as well, though, and I think De Gea has probably made more mistakes than Lloris. I'd probably say that. I think the problem with Lloris, though, is that at times, it always seems to be like games against big opposition where he makes a mistake though. So it's games which are harder to get back into. And like some of the saves what I remember from him, like some unreal saves are like against like the lower sort of teams, if that makes sense. Like you remember that Bournemouth one, which was at Wembley, unreal, absolutely unreal. We was all like, "How's he saved that?" Like, absolute cat.
Yeah, but I think Joe, just to
But
pick up on that, I think like Hugo went through a period where he would drop a clanger, like you say, in a big game, and then you're playing, for example, like Huddersfield or Bournemouth, West Brom, those kind of teams, and then he'd pull off these unreal saves. It kind of reminded me a little bit of when we had Gomez, in that respect, and Gomez for me was an absolute clown. I'm not putting Hugo in the same breath because I think certainly during the Premier League era, I think Lloris is certainly our best goalkeeper that we've had 100%. But yeah, I think there was that time where he'd drop a clanger, like I say, in a big game, and then he'd pull off a worldy save in the next sort of couple of games. But we wasn't really playing anybody. It wasn't a big game. We're playing sort of mid-table or lower end teams.
yeah, look, the thing is as well, I do believe he has sort of improved a bit again. I think I think there's a season and a half where he was making a few mistakes and that. Obviously, yeah, he has made a couple of mistakes this season. Don't get me wrong, but so is every goalkeeper really. The only goalkeeper I can't really think of a mistake who's made is literally Nick Pope. Like literally the only goalkeeper I've had this discussion so many times. But Nick Pope's just so solid, so consistent. But all the other goalkeepers, De Gea, you've got Alisson's made mistakes, Ederson's made mistakes. Ederson made mistakes the other night against Lyon. You've got Dean Henderson's made mistakes. Keepers do make mistakes, and the thing is, if a keeper makes a mistake, you know about it because it's a goal. Like 9 times out of 10, if a keeper makes a mistake, it's a goal. Like that one with Danny Ings earlier on in the season. To be fair, I don't have a clue what he was thinking there. Remember that, would you? Because literally it would have just been a loss of the ball, like rather than a goal. And the thing is, I think Hugo since restart has probably been one of our best players. You can't rule out the fact as well is that he is our captain as well. I think we've had this discussion at times, like we don't necessarily see all the talking from him. Apart from that Son incident against Everton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Apart from that, but I think that showed us that he is a leader, that he doesn't take any nonsense, that he wants to win, that he's hungry. That's what we wanted to see a bit more from him, and he has shown that. And I think this Amazon documentary will be very interesting to see if it shows any parts of him talking in the change room and stuff, because that is apparently what he's good at. I think he's got quite a calming effect on the players as well, because he always does seem sort of calm, if that makes sense. And he's a World Cup winning captain as well. So do you know what I mean? It's not exactly a bad person to have on the team. Do you know what I mean? And he is still a world class keeper, I would say. He still makes some fantastic saves, which you think, Jesus Christ. Obviously, I think he is starting to adapt now a bit towards his age. As you said, maybe not coming for as much as what he used to, and stuff like that. Maybe he is trying to cut back on that. Just thinking, right, I know I'll get to that one, I'm going for that one. Or if it's like one of them where it's 50-50, right, I'll better stay. So if I go out and I get caught, I'm off, stuff like that. Maybe he's thinking about things that little bit more. So then that means the team's going to have to adapt to that. Because obviously that means we might not be able to play as high line as before, stuff like that. But with Mourinho, I think it will probably be a bit deeper. And being under Mourinho might even suit Hugo that bit more. But I do also want to quickly mention his distribution's never really been good enough. I think that's the one attribute what Hugo Lloris has never been great for. And I think when Gazzaniga plays or something like that, you notice it even more. Because I think Gazzaniga's distribution is pretty decent, to be fair. Like what we've seen it a few times. Gazaniga literally starts attacks with his distribution at times, and we never see that with Hugo. And I think it just highlights that bit more when Gazaniga plays. Like Arsenal, was it last season? No, not last, the season before now, obviously going into the new season, when in the League Cup, like Gazaniga straight up, boom. And it's with Hugo, you never see that, do you? And especially with at his feet, Hugo's just, yeah. But yeah, I'd 100% keep him. I'd say maybe another 2 years for Hugo. But maybe next year, maybe get someone who's going to fight for that number one place. So maybe you've got them two battling for that, if that makes sense, for that year. And then obviously then Hugo will be 35, would have been at the club for 10 years. And then maybe if he wants to go off to finish his career in France, obviously fair enough. If he wants to stay as number two and help, fantastic sort of thing. But yeah, I'd say 100% keep on Hugo. Are you saying keep? Because you never really said keep or sell.
I said keep with I said keep, but keep for one more year. Glad you was listening. It was keep for one more year and then perhaps look to sell. But I don't think we're going to be in the market for a goalkeeper this time round. So it's probably one that we'll look at, like I say, in perhaps a year's time or so.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously moving on now, Paulo Gazaniga. What's your thoughts on that one? Obviously, with the signing of Joe Hart, probably makes it a lot more interesting, this one, doesn't it?
Not really.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Hart has come in to be, I guess, a backup goalkeeper, whether that's, second choice, third choice, whatever. Gazaniga for me has always been a backup goalkeeper. I don't think don't get right, when he had his spell in the side last season, he did okay. I think he probably would have got an award by the fans just for, karate kicking Marcus Alonso, which I think majority of Spurs fans back now love it. But the only thing is it led to a penalty, so that's the only downside. But yeah, I just think Gazaniga's always been like a backup goalkeeper. So I think he's decent. I think he's okay. But though it's one of those where, like, if Hugo is injured and you play Gazaniga, there's a massive difference, really, I think. Whereas, if I take United as an example, they lose if De Gea doesn't play, they've got Romero, who's the top goalkeeper. So the difference in quality isn't as much. And now it looks like Dean Henderson signing a new contract there as well. So now they've got three top goalkeepers. I think we've got three good goalkeepers now at the club. But yeah, I think for me, Gazaniga is probably a keep, but he's just going to be a backup. But then with that, what you don't want is for, say, squad players, backup players, whatever you want to call them, to then become stale at the club and just sort of be there and then they end up being part of the furniture kind of thing. But I think Gazaniga's made some like important saves, which, is his job. So credit where credit's due. But has he really, in his time at the club, has he really like had a performance that you go, he's undroppable? Probably not. And if that is the case, you're really, really scratching your head and properly thinking about it. Like, there's not many that come straight away and you go, right, even though Lloris is coming back, we still can't drop Gazaniga because he's played really, really well and he's been consistent over that period of time. It's almost been like when Lloris has been fit and able to play, he's come straight back in. And they've got, like I say, Hugo's come straight back in and Gazaniga's then been dropped straight away. Whereas if he was, say, an able or a bit better in terms of being an able backup goalkeeper, you would still have some confidence to go, no, we can play Gazaniga in this game. Hugo's not quite 100% just yet. He's not quite up to match speed, match sharpness, so we'll just put Hugo on the bench. So that's my stance on Gazzaniga. I don't know if you've got any differing opinions, or whether you want to get rid, or you want to just keep him because you think he's world class, or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. Like, obviously, I am a fan of Gazzaniga. I think I've said this to you before. Like, I do think he's a very good backup keeper, as you said. A backup. There was a part where I was thinking, we could maybe compete for that number one spot. But then he went and, as you said, karate kicked Marcus Alonso, and you just think, he's maybe not quite there. But I can remember some very good saves what he's pulled off like last season. The one against Wolves where that little flicked header and he's pulled off that fantastic save. You've got obviously, I think me and you remember this very fondly. Watford away, or probably my highlight of the season, by the way. Literally, so little insight for you guys. Me and Wes were both at Watford away. There's this lad next to me who was wearing a goalkeeper top. You can see it as a goalkeeper top underneath his jacket. Gazzaniga's obviously in goal. Obviously, concede a penalty. We're like, oh God, here we go. And he sort of undoes his jacket, sort of, and like, okay, so you can definitely see it's goalkeeper top. He hasn't taken it off fully yet, though. Next thing we know, Gazzaniga saved penalty. We're celebrating. I turn around, look at this lad. His jacket's off on the floor, and the guy behind him is absolutely cracking up, laughing his head off. So I have a little look behind. He's wearing a Gazzaniga top, and he's just so proud to be wearing it. That just at the time was so funny, wasn't it? Probably the highlight of the game. That just, but yeah. So obviously, he's brought us good memories. But no, like, and as I said, his distribution is very good. Like, I don't think anyone can argue with that. I think I always remember as well, was it the season before against PSV at home? The ball's come back to me, saying that little Cruyff turn, and you're like, God, everyone absolutely loved it, but I think a few people did need to go to the toilet to change their underwear.
You included.
Mate, literally, yeah. But like, he's got confidence as well, though. Like, and this is something else what I remember saying to you. I think it was at the Watford game as well. He is so feisty and fiery to his even to his own players. He full on always shouting at them, demanding the best. I don't really see that from Hugo. Like, if someone makes a mistake, Gazzaniga's out on them, pounding them. And I quite like that, because that means them players don't have any moment to think, oh, I've got away with that one. No, God, here comes Paolo. He's on me again. Do you know what I mean? And I personally quite like that. But as you said, he is a backup. I think it's going to be interesting between obviously him and Joe this season, because I think I've seen a few things saying it's going to be a battle for second place, really. Obviously Joe Hart. But the thing is, I think, as you said, if Hugo gets injured and say Joe Hart plays a few games, we all know Joe Hart was a world-class goalkeeper. He's won Golden Gloves, for crying out loud. And I guess if we maybe see him come into the team, you never know. He might gain that confidence, what he's been missing since he left City. You never know. Obviously, we all, I think, especially with English players, you want to see them succeed. And we know Joe Hart was a class goalkeeper. He has just lost his confidence ever since Guardiola went, I don't want you, see you later. Because that was literally it. And ever since that, I've never seen the same Joe Hart.
But I actually think on that, with the way that the game's gone over the last 10 years or so, 10, 12 years, you kind of go, right, everybody wants to play out from the back. Right? Guardiola's brought it back to life, if you like. So then when somebody who's brought this playing style in disregards you, it kind of, every other club then is kind of going, well, if he's not good enough for Pep, He's not going to be good enough for us because we want to play in a similar way to how Pep plays. So I think that's probably killed him a little bit. But then at the same time, if you look at Joe Hart's CV, it kind of ends up being like a no-brainer. So, for example, like if I was to say to anybody, right, we need a goalkeeper. Okay, right, I'm going to bring to you a goalkeeper that's won the Premier League twice, that's won 2 League Cups, that's won the FA Cup, that's got X amount of caps for his country, has even captained a team and his country. Oh, and by the way, he's on a free. I mean,
and he's got golden gloves.
Yeah, but taking even the golden gloves. But I mean, that aside, you look at those 6 different points and you go, yeah, I'll have him. Age thing might be a bit of a factor, but if you look at that CV, it ends up being a no-brainer. Like, he's English, he's going to help with the homegrown quota because I think we do need some English players for that. Listen, I'm not saying it's groundbreaking signing who's going to take us to new heights, but actually it's probably one that may just go under the radar. Like you say, if he can get his confidence back, I think it could be a signing that potentially could go under the radar, and he might just sort of be what we need. And I think the signings that we've made so far aren't, groundbreaking. They're not going to excite people, but actually there's more of like a necessity in terms of what we need. Jury's still out for me on Pierre, but we'll see. Hopefully he changes my mind. But I'm sure we're going to get on to midfielders in a little bit anyway, or in another episode. So, that's just my opinion on Joe Hart and that kind of situation, really.
Well, that's the thing. I just want to quickly say on the age, I think Joe Hart isn't one of them goalkeepers. I think he's one of them goalkeepers who could go to like 40 or something, because he's not like Joe Hart's never been like a sweeper keeper or anything like that. He's mainly like shot stopper, demanding box sort of goalkeeper. So I think he could go for quite a bit yet. So you never know. And obviously, part of me does want to see Joe Hart go back to his best, because he was class for the City. He was class for England. I actually felt quite sorry for him when all that happened. You think, he didn't deserve to be treated, I think, in that harsh disrespect. Like, I think Guardiola, I can understand why Guardiola's done it. Do not get me wrong. But I think it was just literally as soon as he went in, he didn't even give him a chance, really, did he? He was like, bye. Which I thought, for someone who's been at City for that long, I do think it was a bit wrong. And obviously he brought in Bravo, who didn't do it. Which I think didn't help the situation. But I think but if as I was saying, if Hugo gets injured and Joe Hart comes in, I think you could maybe see Joe Hart maybe staking a bit more of a claim of Paulo. If Joe Hart gets that confidence, what he needs. If he gets that confidence, we all know he is a world-class keeper deep inside. Back to Paulo. Yeah, I'd keep. But yeah, obviously, shall we do a joint one for Alfie Whiteman and Brandon Austin, like a very short bit?
Loan him out.
I think that's it, literally. I think one of them, wouldn't do harm maybe to be around, but both of them, Brandon Austin obviously went out on loan last season, didn't he? Done well, apparently. Alfie Whiteman needs game time. That's all I need to say on that one, because he's literally just been 4th choice for like the past 2 seasons or whatever.
Might even be longer, to be fair.
And I don't think, and obviously because he's that, he doesn't play in the under 23s games much, or he doesn't play, so he's literally getting no game time. So loan him out. So we'll move on to the defence. And we'll start on the left side and work across, because I don't really want to talk about the person on the right just yet.
Sure you don't want to get out of the way? Sure you don't want to get out of the way?
Nah, save it for the end. I'm sure people want to hear what I've got to say about him. We'll start off with let's start off with Danny Rose, rather than Ben Davies. Start off with Danny Rose. Straight to you.
Sell, cut losses, get rid. Reason being, can't defend, believe it or not. Especially towards the back post. If anybody wants me to back up my claim, just watch the goal season before last against Southampton at St Mary's. Why he's deciding to try and let the ball run across his body in the 6-yard box, I've got no idea. Further evidence, so that's Exhibit A. Exhibit B is City away Champions League. Yeah, again, there's a couple of goals I think in there that he could have, if he was just a bit more switched on, he would have dealt with. And everybody's heart rate and hearts would still be in check. So yeah, Exhibit C will be comments made in his interview in the Sun newspaper, which actually that interview was set up by his agent, and his agent passed all the questions. So, I mean, okay, granted, you might be a bit frustrated with the direction that the club's going, right? But I think it's a bit disrespectful then on your peers and your teammates to go, well, I've had to Google who you are. Like, I just think that's a bit disrespectful. Knowing what he was worth, actually at the time he was worth nothing because he was injured. So, we couldn't get rid of him. And I actually think had he been fit at the time, he would have gone. Because I don't think Pochettino would have allowed that to happen. There's been, Andros Townsend has been a prime example, fell out with one of the fitness coaches a few weeks later out the door. And yeah, but people try and tell me that, he gets it, right? He gets what exactly? Like, he gets beaten up pretty much every game because he ends up on the floor from tackles and stuff. But yeah, for me, Danny Rose, even coming out and saying that, there's no good chippies in London. Firstly, you're a professional athlete. What are you doing eating chips? Like living in chip shops? Like, what's the matter with you? So I hope you found a good one in Newcastle because I'd bomb him off there, to be fair. Yeah, Danny Rose for me. See you later. Thanks for that debut goal against Arsenal. And yeah, see you later.
Oh, well, the chippy bit got me. Yeah, I have to agree. I think there's just been too many mistakes. Ever since that injury, he's never been the same. Whether or not that is the injury or the interview, probably a bit of combined of both, I'd say. I think he let his ego get to him as well. I think, because don't get me wrong, before that injury, before that interview, he's probably one of the best left backs in the league. Unreal, going forward, defensively, really good. Since then, it's just what's happened. I think the thing what people like about him is his passion on the pitch, because he's shown, because he'll go flying in for a tackle. That's literally it. You're like, is that all? You know what I mean? Like, you've got to have more about you than that. CSL, just, it's a shame. It's what, everything what's happened, I think, because obviously if he wouldn't have done that interview or said some of the stuff what he said, I think he'd go down as, quite a well-liked player at the club. But because of that, it'll just be like forgotten quite easy, sort of thing. Maybe. Like, it's a shame because he was really good, especially that last season at the Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it is a shame. But yeah, sell. Just get him out. So yeah. Moving on to obviously other left back really, and that's Ben Davies. And obviously I know both of us are quite big fans on him. To be honest, we're probably, yeah. Over to you.
Well, Ben Davies. Listen, he's not the most spectacular fullback in the world, right? But for me, Ben Davies is a fairly solid left back. Like, he gets the job done. There's no frills, there's no spills. He's just Mr. Consistent, I'd say. I think in his time at Tottenham, I can't recall too many wingers turning him inside out. And if it's one, it was probably Sadio Mane away at Anfield last season at the Lane. But yeah, I think for me, Ben Davies is a decent left back. I think if we are wanting to push on to that next level, I do think the left back is perhaps an area that we might need to look at. It just depends on what type of left back that we get. But certainly, I think, for me, if Ben Davies starts, I'm a bit like, okay, he's really good defensively. Not bad going the other way either. Could probably work on his crossing a little bit, because between both him and Danny Rose, I don't think they could cross a road, let alone a football. So do you know what I mean? It's one of those. And I think he's been really, really key for Mourinho since coming in terms of the way we want to play. Jose seems quite adamant, or was adamant in the way that we played, that when we're in possession, we almost have a back three, and Davies has been key to that because he can just slot in and be that third centre back, which probably with that and the setup, I wouldn't say killed Vertonghen, but it just eased Vertonghen out. So yeah, I think Davies is like I say, sort of Mr. Dependable. You know what you're going to get. It's not going to be the best performance in the world, but it's certainly not going to be the worst. So yeah, definitely keep Ben Davies. Like versatility as well. Can play left-sided centre back if need be, if we're going to go with a back three, and is a fairly decent left back as well. Don't know about you. Don't know what you think.
Yeah, obviously, I quite like him. I think he's one of those he seems to be like a scapegoat for some fans, though, which I don't personally like. I know on some of the social media platforms, some of like the Facebook groups, Ben Davies shocking today, stuff like that. I'm like, no, just shut up. Like, it just does my head in, because I think, as you said, he's quite consistent. Like, I think 6, 7 out of 10s, doesn't really let anything happen too much. Do you know what I mean? He's just one of those who gets like not noticed, if that makes sense. But I quite like that in a left back, because if you're getting noticed as a left back, except for me if you're like Alphonso Davies, so I had to mention him because I think he's absolutely world class, unreal. Sign him up, Jose. But defensively, you don't really want your left back to be noticed in a way, because if he's not being noticed, then it's quite good, because it means he's not getting beaten left, right, centre. And as you said, I can't really remember too many games where he's been bad. I think that Liverpool away one, that's the one what stands out in my head. I think that day he did just have an off day, but I think that's one off day out of however many games he's played for us. I think
how many years he's been at the club.
Don't get me wrong. Exactly. I think, don't get me wrong, there probably has been a couple of other games what I've forgotten, but you could probably count them on one hand. You know what I mean? Like, and for the amount of games what he has played, I'd take that. Do you know what I mean? I think that's players are going to have a bad game here and there, but the consistency what he has shown is phenomenal, I think. So yeah, 100% keep for Ben Davies. I think he's a very underrated player in our team. As you said, suits Jose to a T. So yeah, moving on. We'll mention Dennis Churkin. Obviously, being tipped.
Oh, here we go.
Being tipped to be sort of the backup left back this year, isn't he? So, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, you love Dennis Churkin. Just going to throw that one out there. You absolutely love him. I mean, I don't know much about him. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know a lot about him. But if he's getting all these rave reviews, then perhaps it's time to look at giving him a go. I think our schedule certainly next month, going into sort of September, is looking pretty stacked with games. So yeah, give him a run, see how he gets on. Haven't really got anything to lose, because if he doesn't particularly impress, well, you can say, well, he's, however old he is, I think he's 18. Give the lad a bit of a chance and give him a bit of time. But if he does do well, then we've got a gem on our hands. So yeah, it's probably one of those where we're not going to sell him, are we? So it's a keep, really. Not got much options there. So yeah, but I think I think there's a clutch of players that I'd like to sort of see given a go, and he's certainly one of them. Just because he's getting all these rave reviews and stuff like that. So yeah, throw him in, see how he gets on.
Yeah, that's the thing. I agree. Don't get me wrong. I don't know too much about him. It's just all the rave reviews, what you hear, and you're thinking, oh God, yeah, come on then, let's see a bit of him. You know what I mean? It's almost teasing us. They're like, yeah, we've got this cracking left back coming up. Show us him then. That's all right. Show him, come on. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play. To be honest, I think it'll be quite good. Because obviously Rose is gone. Even if he doesn't go, he won't play. Let's face the facts. I think Dennis Churkin, I think, will be a good season to bring him up, as you said, with the schedule. So there's nothing to lose. If it doesn't work out, you can maybe try and buy one in January or something. But hopefully it does, and I've got a good feeling that it will work out. The only problem I'd say with that is that obviously Ben Davies does seem to pick up a fair few injuries. So I guess we do have to monitor that quite well, that situation. But yeah, also, I won't do a whole other little bit on this player, but obviously Harvey White can also play left back as well. So obviously if we are struggling out there, and I know a bit more about Harvey White than Dennis Churkin, to be fair. And Harvey White, by the way, is an absolute baller. Absolute baller. Obviously left back, centre mid, technically unreal. So yeah, I think left back sorted, to be fair, for next season. I think, don't get me wrong, if we signed one, that's good. But I think there's other positions what we need to focus on rather than the left back role. Yeah, we'll move on to centre halves. First centre half we'll go to is Toby. So obviously you've probably been our longest serving centre half. So yeah, what do you reckon to him then? Obviously only just signed a new contract really last season.
Yeah, I was surprised at that. Not gonna lie, because firstly, age profile. It's very rare. I think the chairman gives contracts out to players over the age of 30.
He did give Sissoko one, and he's absolutely useless, by the way.
We'll yeah. So yeah, that was a strange one because like I said, it's not common knowledge that we give players over the age of 30, contracts. And actually, it was a strange one because Toby's form wasn't exactly the greatest either. So it was like, well, what are you rewarding him for? Are you rewarding him to keep him at the club, or are you rewarding him for good form? Which is, why players usually get a new contract, because they're in good form. But actually, we're probably coming off the back of one of Toby's worst seasons as a centre half, not only for us, but then probably one of the worst seasons that he's probably had. 31 now. Yeah, so I think his contract's taking him up to 33. So yeah, it was just an interesting one on that. I'd have probably, if I was to extend his contract, I wouldn't have given him that long of a deal. But that's just my personal opinion. Unless we were looking around and trying to shop around for a new centre half, and the centre halves aren't necessarily available to go and get, so you tie down what you've got already, which I think will be a theme and a common theme for most clubs. If they can't really replace players that are in last year of their contract or whatever, or 18 months left, they'll just give them a new contract. It's probably cheaper to do so than spending however much on a new centre-half. But yeah, like I say, Toby last season at times was okay, and you thought, okay, this is the Toby that we know. But if I look back at Aston Villa away for their first goal, ball's been put up in the air, and I even turned to my dad at the time and said, like, go and attack it, Toby, and he didn't, and then he put it in his own net, and then I lost my head because it was a simple ball to just go and attack. You either head it away or you get something on it as a defender. So yeah, I think because there aren't perhaps too many top centre halves around that we could potentially go and get that aren't going to be linked with the real super elite of European football, it's probably one that I'd keep. But yeah, I think certainly one that I'm not going to say his place is in jeopardy, because I think that's a bit harsh. But we have seen Mourinho isn't afraid to drop him, so he's not irreplaceable in that respect. He might just be I'm not saying irreplaceable, but it might just be difficult to replace him in the market. If you're looking at centre halves, you've probably got Upamecano, Ruben Diaz, and then like now I'm really struggling because obviously Ake's gone to City. But Diaz and Upamecano are being linked here, there, and everywhere. So, what are the chances of us getting them? They're going to be quite slim. So, yeah, it's a keep. I'd keep Toby, but certainly, I think if there was one person I'd look to replace out of our centre halves, it would probably be him.
Very interesting, I think, because that's the thing. I think we can all agree Toby hasn't had his best season, but obviously there has been a lot of changes and stuff like that. So, and I think we have got the right manager in for him to find his form again. Because obviously Jose is quite good defensive coach. So we'll see. I think next season we'll see. We'll see whether or not he does improve on last season. If not, then it's definitely time to replace. But if he does show us again, fantastic. But just on like the people who obviously to maybe replace him with, obviously, just quickly say we have been linked linked to Skriniar quite a lot lately from Inter Milan. He isn't starting for them. He didn't start for them the other last night in the Europa League final. I don't think he started for them quite a while, has he? You know what I mean? That could be not a bad little signing potentially. But I think they want Ndombele, don't they?
Yeah, and it'll depend on Conte as well, because I think he's not 100% sure in his future. So I think if he does go Conte, then if Allegri comes in, he might fancy Skriniar, and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a little interesting one though, isn't it? Because I don't think he's a good centre half, and he's still not too old either for a centre half. So that could be a little one to watch out for, hopefully. With Toby, I'd keep. I can't really think of too much else to say, to be honest. Yeah, he hasn't had the best of seasons. He is 30, 31 now, but I think for centre halves you can go for a little bit longer. But maybe up to 34. So we'll see how he does next season, I think, because we know he is a class centre half. Next centre half we will talk about. We'll go for Davinson Sanchez next. Obviously, was our club record signing a few years ago. What do you think?
I really like Davinson Sanchez. I think he's quality. Might throw that into an unpopular opinion. But yeah, I just think I think we've still got to remember he's still fairly young as a centre-half. I think he's, 23?
Something like that.
So I think if you have here's the difference, I think, between Toby and Sanchez in the sense that Toby's had an off season, but age profile wise, Toby's in his prime. Sanchez has had an off season, but he's 23. So I think the difference in that is if you're having an off season in your prime age, alarm bells start ringing. If you have an off season where, I know, different positions have like different age peaks, but if you're a centre half at 23 and you've had a bit of an off season or a bit of an iffy season, it's a bit like, that's okay, because you've got, he's got at least another, say, 10 years playing at the, I wouldn't say at the level that he's at, but he's got another 10 years certainly in terms of playing. So he can almost kind of get away with it a little bit more. But I like Sanchez, really quick, like rapid for a centre half, because it's not one of their main attributes really. Centre half is their pace. And often centre halves usually in conversations get, you hear the phrase all the time, he's got caught out for pace there, by pundits and commentators and stuff. But no, I like him a lot. I think he gets away with a lot as well for a defender, for a centre-back. So I think he's got to be careful with that. If I look back at Everton away, the 6-2, how he did not give away a penalty for shoving Calvert-Lewin in the back, I do not know, because he's actually gone bang like that. And referee just didn't give it. And I was literally there like, how has he got away with that? That's ridiculous. But yeah, I just think his distribution out from the back probably needs work. He's not necessarily the greatest in terms of when you're in your build-up phase. He's not necessarily the player that you want on the ball to try and start attacks, whereas perhaps Alderweireld or Dyer, even from centre-half positions, are. They're a bit more comfortable on the ball. But no, certainly I'd keep Sanchez, 100%. I don't know why we'd want to get rid of him. I think he gets a lot of unfair criticism as well. But then I don't think people realise his age. He's probably one of the closest defenders that I've seen to Ledley as well. So yeah, no, 100%. I'd keep Sanchez, and actually probably having Ledley now on board as a coach might help, because these players now they have somebody that they can lean on, somebody that they can talk to, who's been there and who's done it not only in a football sense but has done it for the club as well. So I mean, that particular move from the club is a masterstroke for me all round. Getting Ledley in, I didn't think he would venture into coaching. I was at an event with him a few years back and asked him about it, and he wasn't particularly interested in it, to be honest. So complete and utter U-turn. But yeah, no, like I say, hopefully, Sanchez can sort of lean on Ledley, and Ledley can pass his experience from being a centre half onto Sanchez, and hopefully we'll see the fruits of that labour coming through, or elements of it certainly, this particular season.
That's the thing. I'll probably say a few different things to Sanchez. Yeah, I'll keep him. Say that now. But it does frustrate me a lot, and I think I've said this to you a few times. Yes, I understand he is young for a centre half. Before you start saying all that mister, but I just think you never know what Sanchez you're gonna get. Like, you never ever know what Sanchez. Like, one time he's literally prime Ledley King. The next, he is Vlad Kirikesh. And there's no in between, though. That's the thing. Like, the games what he's been fantastic for us, he's been unbelievable. But the games where he struggles for the game, I think. Because I think he's one of them centre halves who thrives off confidence, where something needs to go right for him in the early stages of the game as well. So if something goes wrong for him,
like his first tackle, if he doesn't nail it, he's struggling, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's my thought process with him. Like, I remember, I think it was Middlesbrough in the FA Cup replay. I'm pretty sure it was an FA Cup replay game. It might have been either that or Southampton. He couldn't head a ball. like he generally could not head a ball. Like there's about 3 of them where he's like 50p head. He's gone up to win it. He's headed it, and it's like gone not anywhere where he wanted, and it's like putting us under the cosh. And that's the thing. I think for a centre half to have that, at times it does worry you a little bit. Yes, I get he is young. He's quick, as you said, which is something which is great to have, especially when you're playing up against quick strikers. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I do like him. I've never said that I don't like him. He just does worry me at times. And I fully agree with you on the Ledley King thing. I think that could really help Sanchez. I think almost be like a mentor to him within the club, hopefully. And I think this season will be a big one for Sanchez personally, because we do know there's a world class centre half in there. He's got the potential to be one of a great like top notch centre half. But I think that confidence thing, he needs to know if something doesn't go right for him early on in the game, it can still go right for him for the rest of it as well. I think that's his biggest problem. If I'm being completely honest. And I might be a bit harsh on him, but I can just remember a few games where, like we were talking about Ben Davies, his consistency, Ben Davies, Davinson Sanchez isn't consistent. That's probably because of the age. But yeah, can you see my point there a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I do like him. I do really like him. And he's got a bright future. But I think it does worry me at times. And I think he's one who we need to look after that bit more, maybe. But yeah, I'd 100% keep him. And apart from that, I don't think there's too much else to say on him. So we'll move on to our next centre half. And I'll go to Eric Dyer because obviously he is now centre half pretty much. So yeah, what's your thoughts on Eric?
First of all, I hope his brother's not watching. Might make for some interesting conversation. Eric Dyer, centre half is probably his better position. I've always said this with Eric Dyer when people saying like where's his best position or where does he play. For me, Eric Dyer was always competent in 2 positions, but never outstanding in one. And I always think and felt that he needed to make a decision on where he was going to play. Else, he was just going to be. He could have ended up like Phil Jones, basically, and just playing here, there, and everywhere, just for the team. So I'm a bit glad that he has almost decided and taken it upon himself to say, no, I want to be a centre half. It gives him some clarity. It gives the coaches that are working with him some clarity on what they can do, like when they're working with him. Yeah, I'd keep Eric Dyer. I think there's a future captain there. And I thought that literally after he beat up the Chelsea team. I thought there's a future Tottenham captain in there just for the fact that he wasn't prepared to take any nonsense from anybody. And that was the leadership qualities, I think, and the leader that we were probably lacking. But then I think since then, he's probably dropped off the boil a little bit. Obviously midfield-wise got displaced by Wanyama. And then sort of after that has had a few issues that aren't even football related, like a grumbling appendix and stuff like that. Like you can't really odds that. But then since the restart, I thought he was up there with Lloris in terms of being one of our best players. And we started to see, again, almost why we bought Eric Dyer and why, he wants to be a centre-back. I think he probably had one off day, but then everybody did, which was Sheffield United in that restart. But actually, even though he had an off day, he still probably come out with some form of credit. But yeah, I think Eric Dyer I'd keep. I think he can certainly distribute the ball very well. Can switch play, which I think is going to be key for the way that we're going to play. Can also just play into midfield. Is not bad at bringing the ball out from the back as well and driving into midfield to create overloads. I think I'd keep Eric Dyer, threat in both boxes as well. He's bagged a few goals from corners in his time, but then also isn't afraid to get his nut on a ball coming into the box. So I would certainly keep Eric Dyer.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like I quite like him as a centre half. I do think he lost his way as a midfielder. He did frustrate me as a midfielder as well. I have to be completely honest. I remember the Chelsea game. He just wouldn't turn. Like the ball would be played into him from the back, and he wouldn't turn. He'd literally just play it straight back. And I remember Toby played into him once, and Eric Dyer's literally just played it straight back to Toby, and Toby literally flung his arms up in the air, going, "What is the point?" That sort of thing. Like, I've literally played it to you so you could turn out, and you just pass it straight back. What is the point? And I think but when the play is in front of Dyer, and I think I've said this a few times, Dyer is fantastic because I think he can read the game really well. I think his passing is phenomenal from the back. So I think as a centre half, he could be a very good centre half. I'm going to throw this out there. I think he could potentially challenge for that one of the centre half positions for the Euros. To be perfectly honest with you, I think Joe Gomez is up there. Probably one guaranteed starter centre half for England. But I think Harry Maguire hasn't been that good for Man United. No, I'm not going to lie. I don't rate him as highly. That he's definitely not 80 mil for crying out loud, is he? Anyway, he might be in prison for the. But yeah, I think Dyer could compete with Maguire. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm going to throw that out there. I think as a centre half, Dyer's got the qualities in there. Good in the air, good with the ball at his feet when the ball is when the play's in front of him. I think reads the game well, leader, throws his body on the line. I think he could really compete for one of them England places as a centre half. That might be a bit of an unpopular opinion for some, but I generally believe that. Because I think if you look at England centre halves, it just doesn't seem to be consistency with them. I'm going to say a little bit. Maguire just makes too many mistakes. Like against us, he was shocking. I think everyone knows that because of what Roy Keane said. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think, I really think Dyer, if he gets a good run at centre half, he could dislodge him, which I personally would absolutely love. Oh yeah, by the way, he's just changed from midfield to defence again. You paid 80 million for him, and he's just dislodged him. Deal with it. But yeah, I'd 100% keep Dyer, and as you said, future Tottenham captain in there, definitely. I was literally, I can't really use the word what I think he is as well, because there might be children watching, but I'm sure some of you could probably think of what I'm thinking in my head. But yeah, 100% keep Eric Dyer. But yeah, moving on, we'll go for JT next, Japhet Tanganga. I think both of us do quite like him, don't we? Let's face the facts. And yeah, surely it's got to be a keep.
Give him what he wants. Oh, JT, Japhet Tanganga. Wow.
Jaffa cake.
Honestly, if I can't believe that it's almost credit to him because, again, halfway through the sort of season he came in, but at the start of the season, it was probably, if we were doing something like this, it would be loan him out or get rid. He's probably not good enough. Blah, blah, blah. Come into the team and my goodness, what an impact he's made. He's been fantastic. Barely put a foot wrong, like at all. Jose doesn't give youth a chance apparently. But listen, JT's come in and has given and has more than taken his chance given to him. I do think he needs to, again, sort of similar to Dyer, work out if he's going to be a centre half. I know that's probably his primary position, but then at times we've seen him play at fullback. And I guess at this stage he's probably just happy to get a game and play for Tottenham. But you know, at some point you've got to be selfish, a bit like Dyer, and just go, no, I want to be a centre half. Again, could help save us an absolute fortune in the market. You know, do we need to go and spend between 40 and 60 million to get a centre half when we've got this guy? And actually, I think he's been superb. A bit more of a throwback type of centre half in the sense that, you know, will put his head in where others would put their feet and whatnot. You know, if I look at the goal line clearance against Southampton, you know, off the line, class bit of acrobatic work from him, by the way. But I just think he's been fantastic, been a breath of fresh air. Yeah, keep him. And there could be potential there. You know, we mentioned earlier about Alderweireld and his age. Well, you know, if Toby's going, just put Tanganga in. And
Slot him
then,
in.
yeah, and, you know, there might be potential to sort of build the defensive line around him. Because he could be a real mainstay in our back line for a long, long time, provided that he stays free of any sort of serious injuries and he keeps up this remarkable form that, you know, that he's been on. Yeah, no, 100% keep JT. In terms of a new contract, I probably was a bit hasty in saying give him what he wants, but, you know, yeah, certainly he's been a breath of fresh air, and I think it goes to any sort of young player out there. You know, if you get a chance, take it, grab it with both hands and take it and show what you're about. Because that's certainly what he's done. And, you know, now he's definitely, he's gone from being on the fringes, you know, sort of academy player on the fringe of the first team to somebody now that is fully cemented, I believe, within our first team. And yeah, I'm excited to see, again, him working with Ledley, because I think that, again, that there's shades of Ledley and Tanganga. So again, be excited to see how that works as well. So yeah, JT, winner for me. Keep him. Don't ever sell him. Build the back line around him if we can in the future, because he is certainly one for the future. I think he's a future England centre half as well, for sure.
Yeah, sound a bit uncertain on that one, Wes. But but no, yeah, I fully agree. He is class. Like, I think he could maybe have like another year, maybe like playing in a few different positions. I think, but only for that one more year. I think that Toby situation, he might struggle to get in at centre half, maybe. You know, if you've got Toby, Sanchez, Dyer, you know, it might help Tanganga maybe play him right back for a few games, because I think that will help him when he goes back into centre half as well. You know, if it is just maybe one more season or so. And obviously, you know, he can play right back, left back. So, you know, I think for one more season, I don't think he needs to think about that just yet for saying one position. I think he could maybe get away with it for one more year. Then after that, I fully agree. You know, I want centre half. Thank you very much. But yeah, obviously he's just signed a new contract, hasn't he? I think, was it a couple of weeks ago now? He was only on like £1,000 a week, weren't he? But only £1,000 a week. You know, I wouldn't complain if I was on £1,000 a week. But, you know, for a footballer, that is obviously, you know, it was very low. Obviously, that's been improved now. Signed a long contract again, which is fantastic. And yeah, definitely one for the future. Yeah, again, I don't think there's too much more to say about him, to be honest. Like, I love the guy. I think he's going to be fantastic for us, to be perfectly honest. I think this one will be a bit more interesting. I think a lot of fans have mixed opinions on him. and that is Juan Foyth. I think. I think I think I know where you stand on it because obviously we've had this conversation a lot. Um, but me personally, I feel he's been treated a little bit unfairly by some of the fans. What are your thoughts on him?
Right, Juan Foyth. Let's go. Here we go. I would keep him, and that's probably going to shock a lot of people. But no, I'd certainly keep him. What done Juan Foyth over, if you like, was him coming into the team and players virtually stitching him up. Exhibit A, Kieran Trippier away at Wolves being a prime example. Exhibit B, Hugo Lloris trying to play out from the back away at Palace, stitched him right up. But yeah, as a defender, I do like him. Again, still very young for a centre half, or playing at right back. I hope I'm not keeping you up, Joe. But yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, I think as a centre half, he's still relatively young. Okay, there's mistakes there, but I think as you get older, they become less. Especially if you want to be a half decent centre half anyway, unless you're some centre halves that end up playing for Woolwich. So yeah, but I think at right back he was a revelation. We'd never seen anything like it before. He was the saviour because our right backs had been horrifically bad that particular season. And like I say, he was a saviour, and then all of a sudden got injured and has just not been seen again. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one because he's been out in the cold. Must have flown to Antarctica or something because he's been out in the cold that much. He's just been completely frozen out by Jose. He might have to let it go and bring Foyth in, because especially if our right back situation doesn't improve, we might need, say, Tanganga to play at right back or Foyth to play at right back. But yeah, certainly I'd keep Foyth. Yeah, certainly I'd keep Foyth. I don't know what happened there, by the way. But yeah, I'd certainly keep him. He could be a very, very good centre half. He just needs he needs coaching, basically. That's what he needs. Coaching. Wouldn't go amiss, would it? Yeah. So I'd keep Foyth. I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think. I like Foyth as well. I think we've had this chat a few times. I personally would loan him out though, and this is the reason why. I think I personally think we need an actual right back for right back now. I think that situation's got a bit out of hand. I think we've had one right back this season who's useless playing there, and I think we're getting onto him soon. Don't you worry. But I think I wouldn't want to have Foyth and Tanganga as the two people to play right back. I wouldn't mind a right back coming in and Tanganga playing there occasionally. But at centre halves, you've got Sanchez, you've got Toby, you've got Dyer, you've got Tanganga. There's four other centre halves there, and it's like you've got so you've got five centre halves. Like, I personally loaned Foyth out for a season because I think that would really benefit him. I know Bielsa really wants him at Leeds apparently, and obviously that doesn't look like they're getting that Ben White from Brighton again. So whether or not if we loan Foyth out to Leeds, get him that Premier League experience, what I think he needs, have a season out there, and I think that will really help him because I think Bielsa will be a good coach for him as well. That's my thoughts on it. I think I wouldn't want to loan him to like a championship club or something like that. I'd want to loan him to a Premier League club because I think that is what he needs. And I think Leeds would happily take him for a year. and I think that would be best for everyone. Because I do think there's a talented player within Van Foyth. But yeah, I think that, yet again, there isn't too much to say about him either. I'm sort of saving everything for this last person who we're going to go into. Obviously,
Here
I'll
we
let you
go.
start on him. I'll let you start on him, and I'll bring it up at the end. Don't you worry. Serge Aurier. That's all I'm going to say. Serge Aurier. Over to you.
That's it. That's it. Serge Aurier. Okay. Yeah. Listen. Let's cut. Let's just get rid, shall we? Let's just sell him. Came with probably one of the biggest reputations going, and I don't know where the reputation was because I haven't seen it at all. Like I don't know what all the fuss was about. Don't know what all the hype was about because I've not seen anything that convinces me that he's worth even keeping. Even Kieran Trippier couldn't really keep. Well, I say that, but Trippier sort of did keep him out of the side. But you think, right, Trippier's gone. Oh, we might get right back in because we can't just rely on Aurier. Oh, snap! No, we're gonna have to rely on Aurier. Seriously, like, yeah, that was a bit of a strange one. The person that I felt sorry for was Kyle Walker-Peters because I don't think, okay, there was the mistake away at Barcelona, but then he actually after that played really, really well. I think Kyle Walker-Peters would have been an able backup right back. I don't think he'd have ever been first choice, but I think he'd have been an able backup right back. So best of luck to him at Southampton. But I don't know what happened in training, but how both Trippier and Aurier were still getting in ahead of Kyle Walker-Peters, I do not know because both of them were absolutely abysmal. Trippier's last season at Tottenham was horrific. Aurier's somehow managed to top it by being even worse. Aurier's never, ever filled me with any kind of confidence at all when playing. He's one mistake away from a red card. Although probably saying that, he hasn't really been sent off that many times, I don't believe. May have only been once or twice in his time at Tottenham. But he's always that. You always feel like he's one mistake away from doing something ridiculously stupid. And yeah, he's just he's a proper loose cannon. I'm guessing fans have seen the trailer for the Amazon documentary. He's even knocking over Jose's coffee onto Jose's trainers, and you just think, brilliant. Aurier can't defend, so I'm glad he's not a lawyer because he's not defending anyone in court or anything like that. So yeah, I'm glad. It's really strange though when you look at his stats because of the amount of assists he's racked up this year, or the season that's just finished. Really strange. Don't know where all of that's come from because yeah, he's just not very good, unfortunately. I think we wanted him to be good, but he just hasn't turned out to be good, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know what it was that I don't know what anybody kind of saw in Serge Aurier, but yeah, he's just not. I don't know if he's actually a footballer, to be fair. I don't even know what he is, just apart from a loose cannon. Can't defend, attacking wise, couldn't cross a road, couldn't deliver a pizza. All those cliches that could come out for Serge Aurier. I think his highlight of his Spurs career is deciding to be a surfer on David Alaba. That's literally about it, I would say. That's probably the highlight of his Tottenham career. Over to you.
As a lot of you know, I can't stand him. I honestly believe I just don't get how he's a Tottenham player. I don't get how he's a Premier League player. I don't get how he's a professional footballer. he's almost like a performer, like not a footballer, just a performer. Like he always does something in a game where you think, oh God, here we go. It's like a villain at a West End musical or something like that. You know what I mean? He's like one of those people. He's behind you. Oh yeah, we know he's behind you because he's just put 6 studs around his back of his leg. I just cannot stand him. I always remember the Bayern Munich game. He was at fault for 4 goals in one game. At fault, just for those at the back, at fault for 4 goals in one game. And yet people say, nah, he's not that bad. If you look at the stats, Joel, throw the stats away. Throw the stats away. Like those of you who go, oh yeah, the stats. Oh yeah, Serge Aurier is technically one of the best right backs in the league. I want to know what football you've been watching, mate. Oh no, you haven't been watching any football. You're one of those people who sits at a computer or on their phone. Oh, look at these stats. Oh, shut up, mate. Watch a game of football. Have a life. Meet a girl or boy, whatever way you go. It doesn't matter. Just meet someone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's pathetic. I cannot stand the guy. Like, everyone says, oh, look at the amount of tackles he's put in this season. Yeah, they're because he's out of position every minute of the game. He needs to be putting in these tackles. Like, you shouldn't need to be putting in that amount of tackles. But he's just an idiot. Like, half the time he's meant to be right back, but he's over on the left wing. Or if you're like, Serge, you've got a sort of job to do here, mate. One of the best things I think I've ever heard at a game as well came from a fan behind me. And what game was it? I think it was in Champions League one night. They went, oh yeah, Serge doesn't want to defend. Or Serge doesn't, I'm like, that's his bloody job, mate. He's a defender. He's got to defend. Like, me and my brother both were like, because he said it in a way where like, oh, he doesn't need to. Like, well, that's his job. It's almost like me saying, it's like say a doctor, he doesn't want to do the surgery today, mate. So unfortunately, they are going to die. But it's his job. Nah, sorry. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's his job. He's paid ridiculous money to do it, and he does not do his job. Like, I think I would rob a bank to pay a team to take him off us. Like, if I got arrested for it, I think I'd be doing a service to the Tottenham fans. So if anyone knows a bank that's got bad security, let me know and I'll go and do it just to get him out of the club.
You paying for his flight ticket to Milan?
Mate, I'll pay for anything, mate. I just want him out of the club. It's a bit of a shame as well, though, because I've got a bit of a soft spot for Milan, so I don't really want to see him there and go and ruin things over there either. It's like, I can't get rid of the guy. I don't get it. I just don't get how someone could be that bad but play that many games in a season. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't get it. Like, he's that bad, but he plays every game. Like, throw in an under-18 player, throw in an under-23 player. What have you got to lose? You don't have him on the pitch. It's fantastic. Like, play Gazaniga right back. I don't care. Like, I just don't get it. Like, people say, oh, he's not that bad. Go and watch the highlights of the Bayern Munich game. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, Exhibit D. All of them. And then Exhibit E as well for the surfing on David Alaba. Just idiot.
Joe, you think that's bad, right? So, popped up the other day, classic games, Tottenham 4, Chelsea 4, 2008, after the League Cup. Pascal Chimbonda at fault for 3 out of 4 of Chelsea's goals. Just thought I'd throw that one in there.
Okay.
For you, because you said obviously Serge Aurier was at fault for 4 out of the 7. Well, Chimbonda was at fault for 3 out of the 4.
Okay. Okay, that's fair enough. But Serge Aurier has pretty much done manslaughter on someone as well in the game. You can't overlook that. And bring Pascal Chimbonda back to take over Serge Aurier. Like, that's the biggest rant at a football match I've ever had. Like when they scored, I think it was their 7th, I absolutely lost my head because I was sat in the wall that game, and I've just gone absolutely mental. I can't remember what I was saying. It's just everything was in my head, just getting it out because I was absolutely fuming at the guy. Because you're just literally walking back. You're losing 6-2 in a Champions League game at home, and you're walking. You've just made a mistake, and then you're walking. You're like, just get out my club, get out. Like, he's never going to be able to save himself from that for me. Like, I absolutely lost it. And this guy literally turned around. He looked absolutely gobsmacked at me. He's like, because I think I was just that angry and everything. My dad was telling me to shut up. But I was like, no, I've had enough. He's just not good enough. Yeah. I think, obviously a few words what I cannot say. And then the guy just went, I agree, in front of me. I was like, yeah, you better agree. If you disagree with me, I'd call you out as well, mate. Like, so yeah, I think it's fair to say that I want to sell Serge Aurier.
Tell us how you really feel, Joe.
I just
You didn't make it quite obvious on that one.
And if anyone, this is a call out as well. If anyone thinks that we should be keeping Serge Aurier, I will attach my personal Instagram. You can message me and we'll have a conversation about it, because I'm not having any more nonsense about it. He is not good enough. He's not good enough to be playing professional football, let alone to be competing for Champions League and trophies. So shift him out. If not, I'm going to be crying for the whole season, and I'll be hiding behind like a massive pole or something. I wish we was back at White Hart Lane. I was sat behind that one of the pillars, like, Serge, I was going to Serge Aurier, quickly hide. You know what I mean? So yeah. But yeah, I think that's wrapped it up for this episode, because obviously we'll do the midfielders and attackers in another episode, because obviously or else it will take absolute ages for one massive episode, because I'm sure we've got a few opinions, especially on one player in there who I can think of off the top of my head in the other episode as well. Probably could just do one episode based on him, couldn't we, to be perfectly honest? But yeah, so obviously make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you like the video, leave your thoughts on what we've said. Remember, I will be leaving my personal information if you want to contact me about Serge Aurier, and that isn't even a joke, by the way, because I've generally had that much of enough. It's a joke. Obviously, it's on Spotify as well, so make sure you follow us on there. Follow us on all social media at Only One Hotspur. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.